Have you ever felt like you were the adult in the room long before you were actually ready for it? If that sounds familiar, then you're in the right place. We're going to dive into some of the really profound, rare traits that get carved into who you are when your childhood ends way too fast.
Yeah? Does that hit close to home? For so many people, that's not just a quote. It's a memory. It's that exact moment you realized your needs had to come second. That suddenly it was your job to manage the emotional temperature of the room. It's this feeling of watching your own life from the sidelines, you know? And that experience, it shapes absolutely everything that comes after.
Okay, so let's start with the very first step, which is just giving a name to this whole experience. Because let's be real, this was a role you never, ever chose. So there's actually a clinical term for this. It's called printification, and it's basically when the roles get completely flipped. Instead of being the one who's cared for, you become the caregiver. You're the mediator, the emotional support system, for the very adults who were supposed to be doing that for you.
And listen, this is so important to understand. This kind of experience, it isn't just a pile of bad memories. It happens during those super critical years when your brain is developing, and it literally rewires how you process things like safety, love, and even your own sense of self-worth. And it's that rewiring that creates the rare traits we're going to get into right now. Which brings us to what we could call the skills of survival. We're going to look at two traits that, on the outside, look like strengths. A lot of people might even admire them in you, but they were actually forged in some really, really difficult circumstances.
All right, trait number one. It's this type of empathy that feels, well, it feels almost psychic, doesn't it? You're the person who can walk into a room and just instantly know what's going on with everyone, with almost terrifying accuracy. But here's the thing, it's not a superpower. No, this skill was born out of pure necessity. You had to learn how to read those tiny little micro-expressions. You learned to decode the shifts in someone's tone of voice, to hear what was being said in the silence between the sentences. You had to sense unspoken pain, because honestly, your safety often depended on it, on being able to predict an adult's mood before it exploded. You basically became fluent in emotional subtext.
But, and this is a big but, there's a cost. Your nervous system never got the memo that it's safe to turn this skill off, so you're just constantly scanning for threats, even when they aren't there anymore. You're managing other people's emotions when they aren't even your responsibility. And it is absolutely exhausting. And that leads us right into the second survival skill, hyper-independence. On the surface, man, this looks like incredible strength, right? You're the rock, you're the person everyone leans on, but you lean on absolutely no one. The thing is, this isn't a choice. It's not a preference. It's a defense mechanism.
And this chart here really breaks down the difference. You see, true healthy independence means you have the choice to rely on other people when you need to. But hyper-independence, that's the total inability to ask for help. Why? Because your childhood hardwired you to believe that needing someone is dangerous, that being vulnerable will just lead to being let down or abandoned. I love this metaphor. Because the world probably praises you for your strength, right? But you know the truth deep down. It isn't strength, it's armor. And it's armor that's become so fused to your skin that it stops any real softness or connection from getting in or from getting out. Okay, let's shift gears and talk about the hidden costs. Because some of these traits aren't about skills you developed, but about the fundamental parts of you that, well, that were never really allowed to develop in the first place. This brings us to a concept that's sometimes called borrowed maturity. You've probably heard it your whole life, right? Oh, you're so mature for your age, so wise beyond your years. But the thing is, that maturity wasn't earned through normal, natural development. It was basically stolen from the childhood you were meant to have. And this creates this really strange internal disconnect. I mean, look at this. You can handle huge professional pressure, no problem. You can manage super complex emotional situations like a pro, but the small joys of life, they feel totally foreign. Playfulness feels like you're just acting, putting on a show. And rest feels wrong because your system was only ever programmed to be on.
All right, trait number 4. And this one is a constant uphill battle for so many. Does this sound familiar? It's that deep, gut-wrenching difficulty you have setting boundaries for yourself without just being hit by this tidal wave of guilt. Saying no feels like you're betraying someone.
There's a psychological term for this too. It's called boundary confusion. And it makes perfect sense when you think about it. Because your needs were ignored or crossed so often as a kid, you literally never learned where you end and other people begin. So you just end up absorbing their moods, their problems, their responsibilities like they're your own. And this quote, this is such a powerful way to reframe it because we're so often taught that boundaries are these negative things, right? Like walls we put up to push people away. But they're not. They are the sacred space where you finally get to just exist without performing, without fixing, without disappearing into someone else's needs. Okay, this brings us to our final section. We're calling it the wound and the way home. Because in here, we're going to find what might be the rarest, most profound trait of all. It's the one that holds both the pain and the key to finally healing. Because of everything you've had to navigate, you just see things that other people miss. You see the patterns, the hidden dynamics in how people behave. And it's not just the patterns. You see the pain underneath them. You can literally hear the unspoken cry for help in a totally casual sentence that just flies over everyone else's head. And even deeper than that, you see the potential. You can see the scared child inside of almost every adult because you had to get to know your own so intimately. So what does this all add up to? It's something that's been called the witness wound. It is this profound, deeply intuitive understanding of human psychology, of suffering, of patterns that you could never learn in a book or a classroom. It was learned in the trenches. It was learned by having to translate your own pain just to survive. Now, this is your superpower for sure, but it's also your burden. So I want to offer you the permission you probably never got. You do not have to be the emotional archaeologist for everyone else in your life. You are allowed, in fact, you are encouraged, to turn that incredibly powerful, compassionate gaze inward and witness yourself first. Look, you survived things that no child should ever have to survive. And those traits that sometimes feel like a curse, they are also proof that you're still here. The adult that you fought so hard to become, they deserve peace. They deserve rest. So the real question, the one I'll leave you with, is this. Are you ready to finally let that kid inside of you come home?